Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I'm a life and parenting coach. And I've titled this episode Accidental Neglect, which sounds a little harsh and I don't want to scare you, but I do want to make you aware of how your children experience you when you're on your phone. I want to give you some awareness of what it's like when you're a little kid and you see your parent on their device. But first, I want to tell you a little story about being an adult and noticing another adult on their device. And it's a small, little, simple story of my husband and I. So last night, we were making dinner. I have this whole new thing where I'm not really making dinner anymore because I'm exploring new areas of my life where I don't have to do caregiving, and it's very interesting. So anyway, I had already warmed up my dinner and then he was kind of prepping his. So I was eating at the table and he was in the kitchen, and our kitchen table is really close to our kitchen, so I could see him. I was sort of a little bit distracted looking at my phone, but he wasn't sitting at the table yet. And then he finishes warming his food up and I sit down. He sits down across from me. I had been in a text conversation. So I got a text from a friend and I got the text and I noticed it on my phone because I had my phone nearby at the table. And then I replied. I had been talking to him and then I stopped talking to him, maybe even possibly mid-sentence, paused my conversation with him, looked down at my phone and started to text my friend. And I said to him, "Oh, I got a text from Deb. I'm responding." And I kind of narrated it out loud to him. And then he's like, "Okay," didn't think anything of it. And then I finished, I put my phone down and I start to eat and I look up and he is on his phone. And I was like, "What are you looking at? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I got a work text or a work, ping or something." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he finishes that. And I realized that when someone is on their phone, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know if they've been getting a notification from somewhere or if they're reading or if they're playing a game or you don't really know what's going on because you can't really see what's on someone's device. So as an adult to another adult, I feel a little lonely when I am in a conversation or I'm with someone and they look at their phone. And I've watched this phenomena with teenagers, with their friends. They're in a conversation, then like, oh my God. And then they look at their phone and you can kind of see the person on the phone like glazes over and they're just consumed with what they're seeing. And their mind is totally engaged with what they're looking at on the phone. The other person is just staring at them. Kind of, I don't know. Should I look at my phone? Like, how long is this going to be? This all makes sense when you're an adult because I also have an online world that exists on my device. Or if I'm a teenager, I have an online world that exists on my device. So I can kind of imagine in my mental map what somebody else is doing when they get distracted by their phone, especially like a friend or whatever. I'm like, oh, they're answering a reply to, maybe their kid texted them or something like that. But I have a guess of what's happening and I can kind of soothe myself. I can kind of guess how long they'll be distracted, kind of justify why they're doing it. I can do some mental gymnastics to cope with that disconnection that happens in that moment because I also have an online life. So I can imagine. It's kind of like if you're a mom and you're with another mom and you're in a conversation and they stop talking because they deal with their kid and then they come back and they keep talking to you and you just don't even think anything of it because you just normalize it. You're like, yeah, that's what it's like, right? Now, that's peer to peer, adult to adult, or teen to teen. Anyone who has an online life can kind of imagine what it's like for someone else. Here's the thing though, children, hopefully, don't have an online life and hopefully don't have a device. So they don't have the ability to go through any sort of mental calculation or understanding or, putting themselves in your shoes. Cognitively, they can't do that, nor do they have any experience of what is so attractive to you about your phone. They don't understand what you're being drawn to. So when you are sitting there having a conversation with your children, you're at a restaurant, you're making dinner, you're picking them up in the carpool line, you're helping them with their homework, you're playing a game, whenever you're doing anything and then your phone sends a notification, or you go pick up your phone and you check for stuff, your child experiences that moment as neglect. They kind of feel rejected. Maybe I should think of it as accidental rejection. They don't know that maybe you're getting a work call and it's important that you respond. They don't know that maybe their grandmother or their aunt or uncle has texted you about something for this weekend. They don't know that you're in the middle of making a doctor's appointment online. They have no mental map of what an online world is like. And so they just see you, have your eyes on them, then go and look at the phone. And to them, the phone is like almost like a sibling that they're jealous of. And that's why oftentimes they act out, or they just disconnect from you anyway. And they kind of go into sort of a lonely space. I say all this because I want your kids to feel safe and connected and comfortable in their life. And I don't want them to feel rejected or abandoned or neglected. And I know you don't want that either. And so we can be doing that accidentally. We can be accidentally disconnecting with our children and not normalizing in the moment, or not explaining to them, narrating what it is that is happening. Now, here's another example. Imagine you were working in your office and you were like a working parent. And for whatever reason, your child came to work with you that day. And then your boss comes in and she says, "Oh, excuse me, do you have a minute?" Because your boss would see that you were with your child, that you're engaged in a conversation with somebody. And then you would say, "Oh, yes, I do." And then you would turn to your child and you would say, "Oh, excuse me for a minute. I'm going to go talk to my boss for a second, or talk to my colleague, and I'll be right back. And why don't you work on your coloring pages, and I'm just going to be right outside the door while I have this conversation." In real life, normally interruptions are the other person is experiencing the interruption. They kind of know who it is and what's going on and why it's happening. And we are polite and we use etiquette to explain what is happening. And then we give the child an alternative or a thing to do. We give them how much time it's going to take. We give them a little task. We let them occupy themselves. We communicate a whole bunch of information. So then the child knows what's happening, and it doesn't feel like this absent parent, this absentee parent, this unknown amount of time, or what's going on, or am I important? Am I a priority? Am I not? What is happening? When you pause and explain what you're doing, then your child can create a little mental map, a little neural pathway of like, "Oh, my mom is busy for a minute. She's going to talk to this person. She's going to come right back." I want you to know, you can still be being in your phone and taking care of business and doing the things that you're doing. What I want you to do is begin to practice communicating to your child what it is you're doing. And you might find yourself trying to explain, "Oh, excuse me for a minute. I'm just feeling restless and I'm going to zone out on you and scroll Instagram for a few minutes or TikTok for a few minutes, and I'll be right back." If you were to have to explain that to your child, you'd probably be like, "Well, that's not very nice. I wouldn't do that to anyone else that I was around." Like if I'm at dinner with somebody or lunch or going on a walk with someone and all of a sudden they're just scrolling on a social media platform, I'm going to feel kind of rejected and like, do you care? Like here we are together having an experience, and yet you're just leaving to go into your online world. I wanted to have this episode because it kind of follows up on the episode I had last week with Amelia about how we go to our phone and I've been on a kick about this. So we go to our phone, we're distracted, and we are trying to find ourselves to be soothed, entertained, or learn something. We get a little dopamine kick, get a little oxytocin, process some cortisol. It does do that. And your child, though, what they're experiencing isn't like they don't understand what's going on. They just feel it as a disconnection or a neglect or abandonment or rejection. And I know you don't do it that way. I know you don't mean to do it that way. So part of all of us is learning how, for all of us, what we want to be doing is learning how to have a healthier relationship with our technology, creating better boundaries about when we use technology and when we don't, when our working hours and our non-working hours. Clearing the afternoon or clearing an hour at dinner where we make an active choice to not disconnect from our kids and go into our devices. Here's another example of how things used to be compared to how they are. So in the past, we would be at work, we'd be at work, right? And if our children were around, somebody came to talk to us in real life, we would have a whole conversation about the interruption. The same for like another time, like if you're at afternoon pickup and you're picking up your kids and you are talking to a mom and then your child, they come running out, mommy, mommy, mommy. And you say, oh, hi, I'm so happy to see you. And then all of a sudden a mom's like, oh, can we go to the park? And you leave the conversation with your child to talk to the other parent. That is another moment where in real life you would say, oh, excuse me, honey, let me just talk to this mommy really quick. And I'm going to I'll be right back. Okay. I want you to be communicating and narrating what's going on in your life so that your children understand what's happening. They don't have the ability to cognitively connect dots. They don't really understand time. They don't understand relationships, especially under 10. So using these practices, it's teaching etiquette, it's teaching manners, it's learning to be polite, it's helping your child have connection. So I have another example of like in the past, when we had telephones in our home and we didn't have cell phones in our pocket, the phone would ring, right? And then everybody in the room would hear the phone ring. They would know that is someone calling. And then you could decide that you're going to let the answer machine pick it up, or you're going to let it go to voicemail. Eventually we had voicemail, but you would go pick up the phone. So your child, like most of us growing up, we experienced our parents stopping what we're doing, going to see who's on the phone. And then, the child might come around and you say, oh, I'm going to talk to, grandma for a few minutes, or I'm going to talk to your cousin, to my sister or your aunt, or, oh, this is your friend calling, or it's a doctor's appointment, confirming an upcoming appointment. There would be some sort of physical experience so that your child's neurology and biology, so their brain and their body was having an embodied experience of you getting a phone call and then you being on the phone. Even if they couldn't see anybody on their other line, they would see you pick up, they saw the phone ring, they heard it, they see you, and they can come touch you, and you can pause and say, excuse me, I'm going to be a minute. Let me be with you in a second. When you have interruptions coming online, it's not an embodied experience for your child. To them, it just looks like you are leaving them. You're just distracted. You just seem like you drift away. You're bored. And this is why I keep talking about like silencing your notifications, putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, giving yourself more power over when you leave your conversations with your child, or when you stop working, or when you shift from a task to a different task, that you have a little bit more power over how that happens, that you're making decisions about that. That's going to be good for you, but ultimately it's going to be helpful for your kids. And then if you do get an interruption, to pause, explain what you're doing, how long it's going to be, and then giving them a little idea of what they can do while they wait. So say I get a text message and it says, or an email comes through and I have to make a decision about a doctor's appointment. The doctor's wanting to change our appointments for the kids or whoever from 3 to 4 o'clock. You need to go online to do that. You would say, oh, excuse me, honey, I need to talk to the doctor for a minute. I need to work this out. I'm going to be on my phone for like maybe 5 or 6 minutes, kind of solving this problem. And then I'll keep playing with you, or then I'll serve snack, or then I'll sit down with you. I want you to pause, communicate what's going on, giving your child an activity or a sense of what they should be doing while they're waiting for you. We get so frustrated with our kids because we think they're rude at interrupting and bothering us when we're on the phone and creating a problem. And really, what they're doing is their nervous system is affected when you go on your phone. They then feel like they've lost connection, companionship, relationship with you, and it feels scary to them. It feels unsettling. They also don't know how to deal with the boredom of it. Like you were engaged with them and now you're not, and they don't know how to do it, how to deal with that. So they get a little dysregulated. You get distracted, they get dysregulated. And then all of a sudden you're in a conflict and now you're disciplining them and frustrated with them. I'd love for you to get out of that trap of distraction, dysregulation that happens, and instead say, give your kids some guidance, some previewing of, looks like I'm going to have to take this phone call. Looks like I'm going to have to, you know what, honey, I didn't quite finish something that I was working on while you were at school. So I'm going to finish that now. I'll probably be about 20 minutes. So that would be perfect for you to play Lego or build a fort or whatever activity you can give to them. Here's some clay or some Play-Doh or some slime or something like that. If your child is not able to entertain themselves or occupy themselves, like they're too little to do that, then they might need to be taught how to do that. You might have to put off your task until later when you have more support or help, or you can invite them in. I'm going to be sitting on my computer for a few minutes, so you can sit next to me. You can bring some coloring books and be right next to me. You can sit on my lap while I work on the computer, as long as you don't touch the keys. Giving your children what they need in connection and helping them understand this is a temporary situation. We want them to be able to cope and soothe themselves and, switch gears and then switch back. We want them to have that response flexibility. And that means that they need help. So I hope that this isn't a hard thing to learn or the hard thing to do. I think it's going to just be a little bit of retraining your brain before you go right into whatever your phone bings at you, or you get a notification or you pick it up and you then all of a sudden respond and you're feeling urgency to respond to everything. And the urgency is fake. It's not real urgency. There's nothing really urgent that needs your attention right then and there. So stopping, communicating, being polite, thinking of it as manners, communicating to people in the room with you, and then finishing your task and then coming back to those people, which are your children. So it's like a habit. It's like a relational habit. It's a habit you have towards your device, and it's a relational habit of how you communicate with your kids. And so catch yourself anytime you're trying to change a habit, getting to calm, changing your limit setting language, any of that. It's really about catching yourself either after you didn't, after you're in the middle of a meltdown or you're yelling at your kids and you're like, what happened right before this? Oh, we were playing a game, then I got on my phone. Okay, that would have been a time where I could have stopped and either finish the game with my kid or tell my child that I'm going to change, go do something. So afterwards you're always welcome to reflect and look at what happened and then decide how you want to handle it next time. That's a lot of how change happens, is kind of after the fact, reflecting gently and making a new plan. Or you can catch yourself in the middle. You didn't pause and tell them what was going on, didn't preview, didn't explain, didn't communicate. So you can pause whatever you're doing, put your phone down, put your computer down, look up, give them eyeballs, let them know what's going on, let them know, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. I did not tell you, but I need to use the computer for about 15 more minutes. And I know this is hard for you. It's, I was playing with you and then I left and that was confusing. And now you're, in my face bothering me or bugging the dog or bothering your sister, whatever it is. So I just want you to know I'm going to be done in a few minutes. You can either sit next to me as long as you're calm, or you can go outside if that's safe, or, give them an alternative thing to do while they wait. So that's you catch yourself in the middle, no problem, reset, communicate, and reset your limit. Or train yourself. Eventually you'll train yourself where you get some information from your phone and then you pause, you connect with your kids, you narrate what's going on with them, you give them some solutions. Slowing down and not thinking of anything that comes in from your phone as an emergency, as urgent, is going to help you not do this accidental neglect situation. If you have been doing this and you have had a pattern with your family where you're super distracted, you're on your phone a lot, you check out, you are in the middle of conversation, you notice you're like aren't paying attention to your children anymore, that's okay. I do not want you to, oh my God, I've already ruined them. They have abandonment issues. They have insecure attachment. Let's choose not to be mean to ourselves. Yeah? Let's choose to be loving and say, oh, I didn't know, or my nervous system needed that back then. I didn't have information. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the capacity. No problem. Everything can be healed. Everything can be fixed. Your children's relationship with you is always open to improvement. And your children's brain is plastic. It's neuroplasticity. So it can be molded and shifted and healed. So going back in the past and being mad about things and telling yourself you were a bad mom or that you are a bad mom currently, it will not help you get to this next stage of your parenting and shift you into a more connected, relational way of parenting. That will only keep you stuck. Being mean to yourself will only get you stuck in self-loathing and guilt, and you'll get trapped. So instead, I invite you to be gentle with yourself and say, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be more connected and slow things down in my life. And so I'm going to be really cautious about letting my phone distract me. If it distracts me, I'm going to talk about it with my kids. If my kids are getting dysregulated, then I'm going to stop what I'm doing, connect with them, regulate them, and then try to go again. Okay, I promise I'm not going to belabor the phone and relationships to tech and screen for the rest of the life of this podcast. We are shifting gears and talking about some other mindset stuff soon. But this has been really on my mind a lot because I think as a society, we really aren't doing our kids a solid by having a distracted parenting experience. It's actually changing our children's nervous system and their brain patterns. And I don't want that for you or for your kids or for future generations. And so if we can figure out some new ways of relating to tech in our adult life, we can maybe prevent some of the problems that could happen in the future with our kids and their relationships to tech. Again, be gentle with yourself, be loving, be kind, make a decision if you want to make a change, and then work on it. And if you want help shifting these patterns, I encourage you to join me in the Calm Mama Club, and we can talk about all of these things that I teach you about: calming yourself, calming your nervous system, connecting better with your kids, setting better limits, following through when they don't keep their boundaries. This is the work of the Calm Mama process, and it's what we do in the Calm Mama Club. So I'd love to have you in there. You can join. You don't have to talk to me. You can just sign up right on my website, calmmamacoaching.com. Get in there. It's $30 a month. Try it for a month. See if you like it. If not, don't renew. It's fine. It's month to month. But if you're curious about it and you want to talk to me first, I'd love that. You can always book a complimentary discovery consultation with me on my website. And you can find all this stuff at calmmamacoaching.com. So all one word, calmmama, M-A-M-A, coaching.com. Okay, wishing you a distracted, free parenting week, and I will talk to you next time. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.